I just remember his body moving to the sounds of the bullet and then into the water.
That was the last time Andrea Maldonado saw her husband. Police shot 36-year-old Miguel Maldonado, a shooting the DA says was justified. Video of the dramatic rescue on the freezing Susquehanna River shows Andrea on top of her water-submerged car, holding her 2-year-old daughter. Thank you for joining us tonight at 11 o'clock. I'm Jasmine Brooks. Tonight, in a CBS 21 News exclusive interview, Andrea details that terrifying January night.
I want people to know that Miguel wasn't a monster.
But Andrea Maldonado says her husband was battling demons for years. And in the early hours of Sunday, January 16th, those demons won. 36-year-old Miguel Maldonado Jr. was shot by police after a long and dangerous night that culminated in this incredible rescue of his wife and 2-year-old daughter.
How did this all start?
So Miguel, the baby, and I were out, and he asked if I would go to the hospital with him because he was having some pain in his right side. And I said yes, so we went down to the Harrisburg Hospital. We got there about 7 p.m. after we'd eaten dinner. We got there, we checked in, he went for an EKG, and he got blood work done.
But Andrea says 5 hours had gone by without word from medical staff.
But by about midnight, he was just really overwhelmed, he was really frustrated, and he didn't want to wait any longer.
Agitated and unhinged, Andrea says Maldonado insisted he and his family leave the hospital.
We turned on 19th Street just like any other night. We were heading home, and all of a sudden he looks over at me, and it was like a totally different person. Like his eyes, it's like I could see right through him. And all of a sudden he just started hitting me. That's what I thought he was doing. I didn't know at the time that he had pulled out a knife and was stabbing me.
Andrea says she was stabbed 13 times.
In both of my hands, multiple times. My shoulder was multiple times across my neck, or across my chin right here, and then a couple times across my chest.
Do you think he was trying to kill you?
Yeah, I do, but not me as a person, if that makes sense. He really thought I was someone else.
Andrea says her husband suffered from mental illness and used drugs to self-medicate. During his violent rage, Andrea says Maldonado crashed into a light pole. Her priority? Getting her daughter out of harm's way.
He grabbed a hold of her leg and he's like, "You're not taking my daughter." So I got into the back seat with my daughter out of her car seat. And at that time I did try to call 911, but he hung the phone up.
That's when Andrea says Maldonado headed for the Dock Street Dam.
At no point did I ever think we're gonna go down there and we're gonna end up in the river. He literally, it was a split-second decision. As I'm dialing 911, I was paying attention to my phone, and the next thing I know is we're into the river. And I dropped my phone, my glasses fell off. I had the baby in my arms, she wasn't in the car seat.
You're in the river.
We're in the river.
Now what?
My first instinct was, I've got to get out of this car, because if this car goes under, we're all gone, we're done. And he looks at me and he says, "Oh my God, we're in the river." And I said to him, "What the F did you just do?"
The three managed to get out before the car filled up with water. Andrea's phone was still inside, and that 911 call would eventually disconnect.
The dock workers that were coming to check the machines on Sunday morning at 3:30 are the ones that came and they saw us.
How long had you been on top of the car before you were discovered?
For 2 hours.
It's freezing outside.
2 degrees.
2 degrees.
And the water's rushing past us.
More than 8 hours since their trip to the emergency room, police arrive at the Dock Street Dam.
Like right when the cops got there, he said, "They're not gonna shoot me unless I turn the knife towards you guys." And that's when he repositioned his body.
We sat down with Dauphin County's district attorney, Fran Chardo.
I've watched video from a number of angles, and he was using a knife as a deadly weapon. The police had to make a decision to attempt to save life, and they made a reasonable decision at that moment.
So in Andrea's story, she recalls him repositioning himself. What did you see him do?
He was making a lunging motion with the knife towards her.
And he says, "You know how this is gonna turn out, right?" And I said, "It's not. We're all gonna be okay. Everything will be fine." And it wasn't. The cops were telling him, "Just throw the knife in the river, everything's gonna be fine." He went to adjust himself. There was no point in time where he had the knife to me. He didn't have a knife to the baby. He just was adjusting himself, and they took it as him coming towards the baby and I. And that's when they shot him.
Even if police knew that this man or suspected this man had mental illness, would that have changed anything if you felt that she was in harm's way?
It would have been irresponsible to do anything differently.
So what were his last words before he was shot?
Just shoot me, shoot me. I can't live with what I've done to my family.
And you said he was right next to you.
6 inches from me. And the baby was on my chest. And after he said that, the shots rang out and I yelled no, covered my daughter's, as soon as I heard the shots go off, I covered my daughter's face and I yelled no. That was my response.
And what did she do?
She just tucked her head real tight into my chest.